Good afternoon, everyone. I hope that you are doing very well today. Today is a continuation of the last the last class investigation. Yeah, last class, if you guys remember, we talked about the profits over different states in the United States, and when it wasn't doing well, it was in orange shade, which indicates a negative number, a deficit. And it was in areas concentrated around the southern area. And we also learned in the previous class very valuable information. I'm so really happy that I made a bit of, I was a little confused about context filters. Not the way that we operate them. Technically, I was fine with it. Of course, you were fine with it, but we were troubled on why we added a filter on items on categories after the it was category and then the item filter, and we were not sure why it didn't work out, and it was because we needed to add a context to the filter of the dashboard. So action, when you are toggling that funnel icon in the dashboard, it creates an action filter, and this action filter is what you want to add in context for your dashboard. So that is really an interesting point, a very important point. You don't have to create a filter for category or a filter for item or whatever and then add it into context. No, you actually add the context to that filter that been generated automatically through the action for the interactivity of the dashboard. Very good, very good, very good. That was really a very interesting point to learn in the previous class. Okay, now we want to talk about how to create stories. And for this purpose, we're going to use the usual Excel data set, the Superstore, not the data set here, not the Superstore data, the sample one, but the Superstore data that we tagged under the sources down in our Tableau. Very good. So I'm going to save this Tableau save it as stories. So stories, and then of course save it as a packaged workbook so that you will have the data already attached to the workbook. All right, let's begin. So the first visual that I would like to create, this depends on the previous one, is it? No, actually. Okay, this is the United States, and this is a profit ratio KPI. So wait a minute, did I create, I need to create all these now. Yeah, it's okay. So with this set of slides is telling story with dashboard part 2. So now we will consider another example of a dashboard that demonstrates slightly different objectives. The objectives here is to focus on the key performance indicator of profit ratio. Did we hit the profits or we didn't? And the profit ratio here is, we're not only looking at below 0 and above 0. Even above 0 is not good enough. We have a threshold for profits. This is how business operates, guys. So even if you make a profit, how much a profit did you make? $1. Oh wow, you made a profit, congratulations. Oh no. So there is a threshold for profits, and now we have a threshold. We are holding to the threshold of 15%. So let's take a look on how to perform this dashboard with a threshold for profit. Let's go ahead. So management would like to know or to have the option of adjusting the value dynamically. So they want to see who hit 5% of profit, who hit 10% of profit, who hit 15%, who hit 20, who hit 50, and so forth. So we need to be able to add somehow the ability for the like a data capture on the side, the legend, the filter, whatever you want to call it, a card, add it to the dashboard so that we can alter or dynamically automate this 15% threshold. Okay. So for this purpose, we're going to create 3 very important calculated fields and parameters. The first one is we need to create a float type parameter named profit ratio KPI. So copy that, profit ratio KPI target. And this is a parameter. This parameter is now could be set on an initial value of 15%. So let's go ahead and create a parameter. Here's the name of the parameter. And this parameter is a float because it has decimals. And it takes a value of 0.15 and hit OK. And now you have profit ratio KPI target. The second one is to create a calculated field named profit ratio. So I'm sorry, I need to maybe put this into color. So it's called the profit ratio. Take this and it should be the sum of profit over the sum of sales. So this should be a calculated field, and let's call it the profit ratio, and add the sum of a profit. I'm going to just drag the profit into there over the sum of sales, and I'm going to just get sales. All right. And the calculation is valid. Okay, and here's the profit ratio. The third one, guys, is to create another calculated field called KPI profit ratio with the following code. And I'm going to explain the code for you in a bit. So we're going to do the KPI profit ratio. Just let me make sure. Okay, well, I'm recording. And if the profit ratio, which is profit over sum of sales, is greater than or equal to 15%, then you're fine. The target, the KPI profit target here, the profit ratio KPI target, profit ratio KPI target. The profit ratio KPI target, we set it to 15. So if this profit ratio, which is the sum of profits over the sum of sales, is in fact greater than or equal this initial value, then it's acceptable. Else it is poor. It's considered poor. And then end. So this is an if statement. Now, I usually explain the if statements to my students. In general, even with Excel, you will have an if statement okay. If profit ratio is greater than or equal to profit ratio KPI. So I'm going to just delete this and show you how to do it here. It's greater than the profit ratio KPI target. Then, so if this condition is true, then do something. Say acceptable. If it's not true, if it's not greater than or equal to this profit ratio KPI target, then give me poor, and you should end the process, the algorithm. Then that's it. So now this is enough for us to create the first sheet, which is the region scorecard. So please create a sheet and call it the region scorecard. And as you can see here, this will give us a table with the regions, the different regions, and then on the horizontal we have the different months, and these months seems to be not all the months of the years. It seems like we have a filter for the order date. Order date is the month here. So let's explore how we do that. So first of all, this sheet, I'm going to call it region scorecard. I'm going to get the region here, and then I'm going to take the order date, guys. But be careful, if order date is not set to order, and I always do that because I want you to always be patient and careful. So now it's order date, so it will behave as is intended to behave. And it is actually just months as, it's months as in a discrete. And now in there we have the profit ratio, right? We have the profit ratio, which is profits over sales, but we need to add the grand total. So for adding grand totals, you guys remember in the flip, we went to analysis, we went to totals, and we were able to add the grand totals. So now we have a grand total, but you can see it really well, right? Now we can see better. So this is the grand total. Let's over here, let's format it. So I'm going to format that. Instead of a grand total as a label here in the label, grand totals label, I'm just going to add it overall or something. If you want to change it, you can have it in dark black, in bold, and this is it. Now you have it overall. Okay, so now we have the ratio, right? Order date as a discrete, and then we added the grand totals, and then we added KPI profit ratio. This is a profit ratio, and this is KPI profit ratio. Let me just take a look at the difference. Oh, be careful. I don't want the numbers here. I don't want the profit ratio. No, I don't want the profit ratio. I want to know if this profit ratio is actually hit the KPI or not, if it's acceptable or not acceptable. So this is what I want. Yeah. Now this KPI profit ratio will be automatically dropped into the color. Hold down the control key and drop it into, no, leave it into color, and then go to shape here, and then you can edit and then drag it into shapes. You see? So the first step, let me show you. The first step is make sure that you don't use the profit ratio. What we need is whether this profit ratio is acceptable or not. So take the KPI profit ratio. I forgot because we have here X and the check. So now it's automatically dropped into the color. Now I would like to change this automatic into shapes. I want shapes. Why I want shapes? I want the shape because I want to use these X and checks or whatever other shapes. Now I have the shapes card here. So I'm going to hold down the control key and drop that also into shapes. And then I can edit the shapes accordingly. So I'm going to go for the KPI shapes here. So in the KPI menu here, acceptable will take the check and poor will take the X. And then apply. And here we go, acceptable and poor. So now you have an overview of your performance for each region. Now, what if you want to show the last 6 months? Let me check. This is the next step? Add order date as a filter. And I want to show the last 6 months. Now, lovely people, remember something very important. If this date was continuous, so for example, if this date was a month in continuous, as you can see here, if I take it by holding down the control key and put it into filters, I can add here relative date, and from relative date, I could say anchor relative to a certain, or months actually, the last days here. You go to months and say the previous or last 6 months here, right there. So you go to months and you say I want the last 6 months, or you go to quarters and you say the last 2 quarters, and then you will be able to see the last, wait a minute, what happened? Because we don't have quarters, sorry. So the last 6 months. What happened? Oh, what happened? Anybody has an answer for what happened? Anybody has an answer? Okay, I'll tell you what the answer is. The answer is the data that I'm using is not live connection. It's live connection, but it's not actually connected to a big database in my organization. And I have data coming in the past 6 months, the current past 6 months, our real life past 6 months. So now what's the date? The date is the 2nd of June. The past 6 months will be January, February, March, April, May. Actually, it would be December 2019. This data, lovely people, doesn't cover December 2019. Look at the data source. Look at the order date. So our order dates ranges from 2017 all the way to 2014 to 2017. So we don't have the last few dates. So this is not the way that we could do it. So if you're thinking this is how am I going to do it, even if you are on a continuous date, please don't do that. Yeah, even if you are on a continuous date, this is what I'm trying to tell you. Now you are on a discrete date, and you're going to take it here. Are you going to be able to also do relative? Yeah, but also the same problem, unless you take an anchor relative date and then you say an anchor relative date will be the last date of the data set is this, and I'm going to put an anchor relative date, but then it is also kind of going to get you problems with the discrete. This is the second thing that I wanted to show you. Also, I wanted to show you that you could actually do it this way if the data is connected to a big database and it's always feeding into data. Even if your database is not connected, you can have an anchor relative date for continuous date. But for this discrete date, it's going to be so difficult. It's going to get you trouble. It's not going to work as intended. So for this purpose, because it is discrete, this is how we do it. We go all the way to top and we take by field, and we take bottom, and we take bottom 6, and then we take the order date, because we want the order date, the last 6, not count the minimum. So we want the last 6 months. So this is how we do it. We go to top, we take the bottom 6, order date, and minimum. So this is how we do it when we have a discrete date. And this takes the date from the data set. Yeah, for both discrete, continuous. Yeah. So now we have the dates here, the months here. Let's see what we have at formatting. At formatting date here, we have January, we have automatic, we have full name, we have abbreviations. So with abbreviations, we just get Jan, Feb, March, April, May. I think this is good enough. You want to have it bolded, why not? Here it's now bolded, so we are good to go. Okay, so this is the scorecard, the region scorecard. With this, we learned how to add shapes and how to add our colored measure into shapes and use the Kpi shapes. If you are into a Japanese environment, usually they use the Maru and the Patsu, so you can use these. Also with Kpi, they might have it. No, they don't. They don't have the Japanese way of doing things. Okay, well, in any case, this is how you do it. Very good. So now that we have this done, let's check if we have any other thing to do. No. So now we are going to create another data sheet and call it profit ratio by region. Okay. What is supposed to be the output of this? It's a map, isn't it? Yeah, it's a map. Okay, so we're going to take the region and we create a map. I want to do it both ways. First of all, region here, yeah, as APC, make sure that region is in a geographic role. There's two ways to do it. Either you go geographic role and go here and put it as region. Do we have? Yes. And now it has a geographic role, and it will automatically create the longitude and latitude. But over here, I can't see anything special. You see? And even if you drop it to color, nothing is colored. I have the region central, east, south, and west, but there's no color. Well, there's no color because there's no, there's no, the color is coming from here, from the sales, for example, or profit. So let's drop it profit here. I don't have any colors, but I have here 4 unknowns. I'm not even probably able to still unrecognized. It's still unrecognized. No matter what option I try, it's still unrecognized. So there's a problem here. So this is unrecognized. So in order to get the region split the states, we need to do the following. We need to go to region, and instead of going to geographic role, country, region, I'm going to go to create from states. So now this region will be created from states. So it will be here, region, state, in a group. Oh, no, where is the region? Here. I think I messed up somewhere. Let me remove this. Okay, this region, now this is the right way to do it. This region, and create from state. And now add the profit. Let's see. So we create from state, geographic role, to select geographic role, create from state, and then Tableau will treat region as a geographic field based on the relationship with the geographic field state. Now double click it instead of dragging it and drop it. This is crucial. You see? The problem is I dragged this. When you drag this, the hierarchy that been created, and we talked about hierarchies earlier, it has both, the whole thing is brought into the canvas, the region and the state. So I just need to double click, sorry, this should be top. Double click the region here. So this is a quick way of adding a hierarchy. And now, shall I add a profit ratio? Yes, profit ratio into color, not the profit ratio KPI. The KPI profit ratio is just for the acceptable, not acceptable. So I'm going to take the profit ratio. Where is it? Here. I'm going to drop it into color. Uh-oh, what happened? You see, I have the states unknown, but I think we solved this problem earlier because we have it here into the United Kingdom instead of the USA. So we're just gonna change to the USA, and then you see what's the difference. Now we have different regions. In fact, we can add this to labels. So we're gonna add the label and add the profit ratio. And how about we do some formatting, guys? Excuse me. So let's format this to the font. Maybe this is not what I want. In fact, I want to just go to label, and this text region here, this is now bolded. for this, I'm going to go to format and I'm going to put it into percentages instead of numbers. So I'm going to go to percentage with 2 decimals like that. So now it is nicely done with decimals. So easily create different regions. Very good. So this is the a regional map. Okay. Additional region label. What else? Let me just be very careful not to forget any. Apply the same filter that you have in the region scorecard. You may wish to navigate to the region scorecard, and for the order date, apply the same filter. If you remember in the previous view here, we just focused on the past 6 months. That was part of the case study. So I'm going to apply this filter to all the views. So apply to worksheets, all the views in this data. No, let's not do that. I'm going to Control Z. I'm going to hold down the Control key and press the Z to undo. So I'm going to do selected worksheets. Why? Because I wanted you to use this as well. Profit ratio by region. This is, now I have different percentages because I have the order here. You can actually drag the order date and put it in here and do the same thing that we've done earlier. But there's no need. If you've already done it here, you can just use the same filter with this easy drop-down menu option. All right, so now we are here trying to look up different regions. We probably want to focus on this region. This is the ratio of profit over sales. Okay. Interesting that the West has 2.11. Here it has 4.95. So the West have the least, but actually there are some states here unprofitable, even though all states here are profitable. So always try to tell yourself, what is it that I'm trying to create? All right. So for this video, I created the region scorecard and the profit ratio by region view. And let me just finalize by adding them to a dashboard. So over here, I'm gonna create a dashboard with this on top and this in the bottom, and maybe highlighting only the South states. Or maybe just leave them all highlighted as is. Here, perfect. And now this KPI, I'm just going to take it here and I'm going to put this as a range in one line in single row. Have it like that. Let's make this bigger. I think this is awesome now. Huh? Just resizing. Okay. I think now this is a wonderful dashboard. So, this is acceptable and this is poor. I need to change the colors. Don't you guys think so? Wait a minute. To red and blue. Edit colors. Acceptable is supposed to be red. Okay, here's red for acceptable. Or acceptable is actually green. I'm sorry. It's green and poor is red. So at least let's be consistent here. Yeah. So this is acceptable. This is poor. I don't need it really. Like this, I don't need it. I'm just gonna get rid of it. However, this one I probably need it. Not probably. I need it. I need to show what the gradation in color means. All right. So here it's quite interesting how the story unfolds. As you can see here, let me just put this as entire view if you want. And this shows that the West region has less ratio, profit ratio over sales than the South region, even though in the previous story we have discovered that we have some states that has very low profits, right guys? And West doesn't have states with low profits. Let's investigate further more in the next video. This is just the beginning of the story. This is the first page of our story, the profit ratio by region. Okay, here's a profit by region. We can put it as this, and we can show the dashboard title. And I'll see you in the next video.